Moses, a name that echoes through generations as a symbol of unshakable faith and courage in the face of the impossible. The man who challenged Pharaoh's power, raised his staff over the waters, and saw the Red Sea open before his eyes. The one who ascended the mountain wrapped in fire and cloud to receive directly from the Creator the eternal laws engraved on stone. But behind this legendary leader lies a silent chapter, almost erased from the familiar pages of Scripture. A chapter not about liberation or miracles, but about family, about the sons of Moses. Few remember that he had two sons, Gershom and Eleazar, two discrete names, nearly hidden among the sacred lines. While Aaron's descendants became central figures in Israel's religious life, Moses' sons seemed to vanish, as if time itself had swallowed them. Why this absence? Did they choose another path? Were they left aside by God? Or is there a deeper reason behind their silence? The answer begins in a time of exile, far from Egypt's palaces and the cries of the enslaved. After defending a Hebrew and taking the life of an Egyptian, Moses fled, leaving behind comfort, reputation, and identity. He found refuge in Midian, a land of deserts and flocks, where the wind carried more silence than human voices. There, God began shaping the heart of the man who would one day lead a nation. Away from the crowds, he taught him to listen, to wait, and to trust. And it was in that humble setting, among dust and sheep, that Moses met Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. Their union was more than a marriage. It was a new beginning, the rebirth of a man who had lost everything and was about to discover his true calling. From that covenant came two sons, each bearing a name rich in meaning. The first was named Gershom, from the Hebrew ger, meaning foreigner. Moses said, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." That name carried the ache of exile, the weight of not belonging anywhere. Each time Moses called his son's name, he remembered his own past, Egypt, the escape, and the longing for his still captive people. But God never allows pain to be the final word. The second son was named Eleazar, meaning God is my help. Moses testified, "The God of my fathers was my help and delivered me from Pharaoh's sword." While Gershom represented the memory of loss, Eleazar symbolized divine rescue. Two sons, two seasons, two reflections of one journey, the inner and outer wilderness of a man being prepared by God. These boys grew up far from palaces, without crowns or crowds. They were silent witnesses to a magnificent story. They saw their father hear God's voice, bear the weight of destiny, and face the impossible. Yet, Scripture tells us almost nothing about them. No heroic acts, no prophecies, no miracles. Just names that appear briefly and fade away. And in that silence lies one of the most profound lessons in the Bible. Not all who are chosen stand in the spotlight. Some are called to serve quietly, sustaining God's plan from the shadows. While the world remembers Moses a liberator, there was also Moses a father, an ordinary man surrounded by a small family, guided by invisible promises and unbreakable faith. God chose Aaron for the priestly role, making it clear that spiritual authority is not passed down through blood, but through divine purpose. There is also a second reason tied to uniqueness of Moses' calling. He was chosen to free Israel from slavery, lead them through the wilderness, and receive the laws that would shape their future. His relationship with God was unlike any other. In Deuteronomy 34 verse 10 it is written, "There has never arisen another prophet in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." His mission was so specific, so sacred, that it could not be inherited or repeated. From this truth, we learn something profound. God's plan for one person is not automatically transferred to their children. What he does in one generation may differ completely in the next. The movement of the Spirit does not follow human traditions or family expectations. Moses was called to open the way, but Gershom and Eleazar were not chosen to continue the same path, not because they lacked worth, but because God had another role prepared for them. There's yet a third reason, often overlooked, that may explain their absence during the major events of the Exodus. In Exodus 18, we read that Jethro brought Zipporah and her sons back to meet Moses in the wilderness. This suggests that at some point they had returned to Midian. They were not present for the dramatic moments in Egypt, the crossing of the sea, or the early stages of Israel's journey. They did not witness the plagues, the manna, or the thunder of Sinai. Perhaps for that reason, they were not viewed by the people or by God as those destined to lead among the Levites or to stand as spiritual guides. Yet the Bible's silence about them should not be mistaken for neglect. Their quiet presence carries a timeless message. Not every divine calling happens under the spotlight. Some are chosen to lead. Others are chosen to serve in the background. The absence of their names in great events does not mean their lives lack value. On the contrary, their silence is a gentle reminder that a God, every task, every person, and every generation holds purpose. The sons of Moses may not appear in the well-known chapters of Israel's history, but their story continues. Centuries later, in the less-read pages of 1 Chronicles, their names resurface. There we discover that the lineage of Moses did not vanish. They were not judges, prophets, or rulers, but they were counted among the Levites, faithfully serving in the tabernacle and later in the temple. In 1 Chronicles 23, verses 15 to 16, it is written that the sons of Moses, the man of God, were recorded as part of the tribe of Levi. One of Gershom's descendants, Shubael, is mentioned as a leader who helped oversee the work of the temple. Eleazar had a son named Rhea, whose family grew greatly in number. That growth was not just physical. It carried spiritual meaning. It showed that even without fame, their lineage flourished under God's care. Though they did not hold priestly rank like the sons of Aaron, they were not excluded from Israel's sacred service. The Levites were the silent foundation of worship, caring for sacrifices, handling holy objects, assembling and disassembling the tabernacle, and assisting the priests. Without them, worship could not exist. Shubael appears again in 1 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 20, not as a forgotten man, but as one of the Levite leaders who organized temple duties. His presence among the overseers shows that the descendants of Gershom, though not priests, still carried spiritual honor and responsibility. The same applies to Rhea's family, descendants of Eleazar. Their names may not be tied to heroic deeds or military victories, yet their devotion was constant. They were there, woven into the daily rhythm of Israel's worship, preserving God's presence among his people. The scriptures mention that the sons of Rhea were many, a detail that speaks not only of growth, but of enduring faithfulness. Such silent devotion may go unnoticed by human eyes, but not by God's. The Lord, who sees what is hidden, honors those who serve without being seen. The story of Gershom and Eleazar represents everyone who gives their life to God not for recognition, but for faithfulness. They were men whose trust did not depend on applause, but on obedience. They were not exalted, but they were remembered, and more than that, they were used by God to keep the flame of worship alive. To serve without recognition is not to be forgotten. It means being known by the one who sees the heart. The sons of Moses remind us that divine calling is never inherited. It is bestowed. God's choice is not bound by bloodline, but by his sovereign will. God acts with wisdom, not by habit, with purpose, not by assumption. A deeper truth is that closeness to spiritual leaders does not replace closeness to God. Gershom and Eleazar lived near Moses. They grew up with a man who spoke to God face to face, as two friends conversing. They saw the glory of God descend upon the tent, heard the stories from the mountain, and witnessed the transformation in their father's face after those encounters. But being near that power is not the same as entering into it. Living beside someone chosen does not guarantee that you will receive what that person has. This teaches us that everyone must seek their own personal relationship with God. Faith cannot be inherited, nor can holiness. A person may walk beside someone filled with the Spirit of God and still remain unchanged. Gershom and Eleazar lived next to a man who knew God more intimately than anyone else in Scripture, yet they did not follow the same path. This brings a serious truth. No one is saved by the faith of their parents, nor strengthened by their leader's spirituality. Each of us must walk our own path of obedience. One final lesson stands out through the silence of the story: the beauty of serving without seeking attention. Although Moses' sons are not listed among the heroes of faith, they served with devotion. Their families remained faithful among the Levites for generations. They did not seek status or praise. They did not aim to exalt themselves. They simply served, and by doing so, they aligned their hearts with God's. For the Lord values faithfulness more than fame. in our modern world, where being seen often seems the same as being important. God reminds us that the one who quietly cleans a sanctuary out of love may be as honored as the prophet who speaks to crowds. God looks beyond appearances. He sees intentions. He rewards the heart. The story of Gershom and Eleazar also speaks about redemption and lasting legacy. Even though they were not part of Israel's great public moments, their names were preserved. The biblical record kept their memory alive. Their descendants multiplied. Their lineage endured. They remained faithful to the God of their ancestors, day after day, generation after generation. Even far from the spotlight, they stood firm, sustaining what was sacred. This teaches us something powerful. Even in God's silence, He is building something that lasts. His plans do not always begin with grand announcements. Sometimes He works quietly, through forgotten names, humble families, and unnoticed acts of service. Yet in those hidden places, He builds the eternal. What matters is not who is celebrated by men, but who is seen by God. The fact that Moses' sons were not at the center of history is not a sign of failure. It reveals a deeper truth. Silent faithfulness also shapes the kingdom. In God's eyes, true greatness is not always under spotlight. Often it grows in secret, and its light shines eternally before His throne. The story of Gershom and Eleazar reminds us of something uncomfortable but real. Not every great figure of faith had children who followed the same visible path. Not every important name in Scripture came from a famous family. And often, God chooses to exalt those who live in the shadows, ignored by others but deeply known by Him. Moses' sons, the children of the man who spoke with God face to face, did not become leaders in Israel. Their words did not echo in public squares, nor did their deeds fill long accounts. Yet the silence surrounding them speaks volumes. It reminds us that God's plans do not depend on popularity, inheritance, or human expectation. God does not repeat patterns. He chooses, prepares, and sends whomever He wants, in His way, in His time. And that truth is not only profound, it is liberating. It shows that our walk with God is not shaped by our past, but by the surrender of our hearts. Maybe you feel left out, unsure where you fit in God's plan. Maybe you think that because your name isn't known or your role isn't visible, your life has no value in God's kingdom. But the story of Gershom and Eleazar proves, quietly yet powerfully, that names forgotten by men are still remembered by God. You don't need attention, applause, or recognition. What matters to God is your loyalty, a heart that serves Him in silence, with the same devotion as one standing before a multitude. True legacy is not built through public success, but through constant faithfulness. It's in hidden moments, far from applause, that some of the most powerful acts of trust take place. And God sees each one. He honors each one. That's the message that changes everything. You can be part of something eternal, even if no one notices, as long as God is at the center of your life. If these words spoke to your heart, if they open your eyes to the beauty of quiet service and humble devotion, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a like on this video. Share it with someone who may need this reminder, and help spread this silent hope that transforms lives. Write in the comments which part of this message touched you most. Let's grow and learn together. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do it now and activate the notification bell, so you won't miss the upcoming videos filled with reflections on Scripture and faith. Thank you for spending this time with us. May the Lord richly bless you, and may your quiet faith, even unseen by the world, always shine before Him. Until next time,